In part 6 of our Scholomance Academy reviews, we're looking at some of the most powerful legendaries in the set, including a neutral that looks far more frightening in standard than I thought at first glance. We'll also look at all the remaining warrior cards, including the remaining dual class cards with Paladin and Rogue. Let's get into it.
This should be interesting.
We review cards a bit differently here, so if you haven't seen earlier reviews, there's a card above linking to review number 2 where we explain the criteria in case you'd like to watch the intro of that video. There's a time code for quick reviews with puns in the description below for those of you without much time. For everyone else, let's get into the main reviews. Let's start strong with Lord Baroff. He's a 3-mana 3/2 legendary minion for warriors and paladins with a battle cry to set the health of all other minions to 1. His death rattle is to deal 1 damage to all minions. So essentially he's a cheap equality on a body that triggers a whirlwind when he dies. That's a potent board control tool packed into one body. Since you have to wait until he dies for the whirlwind effect, it may be necessary to use Consecration or Risky Skipper with him when an immediate board clear is needed. But if you can wait, he's got it all packaged together for you. In current meta decks, this would be detrimental to Murloc Paladin and Pirate Warrior, as they hope to have already taken the board with minions. But Pure Paladin could use him together with Consecration to clear, and try keeping him alive to pair with Libram of Justice as a second clear. They would include him if they could. The other forms of Warrior are a bit more questionable, but Bomb Warrior probably would include him as well. And in the new meta, in addition to the 2 archetypes mentioned, it's possible Big Control Warrior and Control Paladin might develop, and both would be happy to use Lord Baroff. He'll definitely see play in a few meta decks. When it comes to meme decks, he's a bit of an odd card. He's a great tool to help stall towards a big or combo turn, so that may be enough to qualify him as meme deck worthy, but there are also some interesting options with Terran Gorefiend or Gift of Luminance to get a bit of extra value from his death rattle. It'll be possible to figure out a few peculiar ways to use him, so he's certainly meme deck worthy. Another really exciting dual class card for Paladins and Warriors is Commencement. Commencement is a 7-mana spell to summon a minion from your deck, giving it Taunt and Divine Shield. This definitely goes in both Dual Paladin and Dimensional Big Ripper Warrior. Who knows, maybe this will make Rattlegore a viable card? Only the first copy of him would have Taunt and Divine Shield, but that would be more than enough to overwhelm a lot of opponents, especially for 7 mana. Many of the cards that would do well in a Dual or Dimensional Ripper deck will already have Taunt, as that's what's needed to help recover when your deck consists of almost entirely big minions. However, this giving Divine Shield alone feels great, as it's still pulling a minion directly from your deck onto the board, and the possibility of adding Taunt does open the door to include a few less optimal but more greedy cards, such as Judicious Jr. mentioned during the last review. All of the current meta Paladin and Warrior decks have far too many low-cost minions in them for Commencement to get value now. This is more of a build-around card. Other than this card, Dual Paladin doesn't feel much stronger, so it likely won't be strong enough to be a meta deck. However, Big Warrior was decently strong already, and with new tools such as Troublemaker and this, I think it may finally be strong enough to wrench its way into the new meta. Commencement has a real chance of being a meta later card in Warrior. We might try building a full Bomb or Quest Warrior with only weapons and spells other than Rattlegore in an effort to ensure that Commencement pulls him out, as long as we don't draw him first. That's one direction we can go, but we'll build a number of fun decks around this, including revisiting Dual Paladin. Now, if you already drew a big minion and had to play it before Commencement could summon it for you, there's still hope to get amazing value from it with this next card. Shield of Honor is a 1-mana Warrior and Paladin dual class spell to give a damaged minion +3 attack and Divine Shield. This is a 1-mana cheaper Rampage, trading 3 health for a Divine Shield. Sometimes Divine Shield is better, and sometimes 3 health is better, but 1 mana cheaper is pretty much always better. And this can stack with Rampage to make a minion deal 6 more damage for just 3 mana. The Korkron Elite Bloodsworn Mercenary combos just got a lot scarier. For Paladins, this is exactly like Blessing of Might and Hand of Protection bundled into one card, Both Blessing of Might and Sand Breath have seen some play in recent history, so there's a pretty good chance for this to see play. The burst damage potential and protection of a minion are both appealing for Murloc Paladin. While their minions don't have a lot of health, there are a lot of cases when an injured Murloc is sticking to the board, so I think they could use this effectively. But unquestionably, Egg Warrior would use this if they could, possibly in addition to Rampage. And in the new meta, there's a bit of synergy for big minions, and Warrior got a number of new rush minion tools that will pair well with this. Playmaker is actually frighteningly good with this. Aggro Paladin and Highlander Paladin may also be open to using this, so we can be fairly certain this will see at least some play in the upcoming meta. So even though Egg Warrior might be able to do it in the meta, dropping double Inner Rage on a Kor'kron Elite with 2 Shields of Honor and doubling the Kor'kron with a Bloodsworn Mercenary does sound like a lot of fun. It'll only do 28 damage, so it's not a full OTK, but we can toss in a South Sea Deckhand to ensure a full 30 charging damage as long as we have a weapon. This also helps set up an even larger and more reliable Blessed Champion finisher in Paladin. There are quite a few directions we can take with meme decks and this. Speaking of shields, the next card will provide a couple of shields, so to speak. Information is a 2-mana spell for warriors to add 2 random taunt minions to your hand. This is one more random support card for Taunt Warrior, but without any other cards in the set working together with this to build up Taunt Warrior, it's still too weak of an archetype to succeed. And while it's possible to get a couple amazing taunts from this, the majority of the time you'll be adding 2 rather disappointing minions to your hand. Information is not nearly strong or reliable enough for any current meta decks, and it's far too weak to earn a slot in a future meta deck either. However, Armageddillo is excited to see even more taunt minions being generated in hand to buff and drop in a Taunt Warrior meme deck, so this will see play in that meme deck at least. Another spell that will add a minion to Warrior's hands is Athletic Studies. However, this card has some major benefits over the last card. Athletic Studies is a 1-mana spell to discover a rush minion, making the next rush minion you play cost 1 less. Rush minions are far more proactive than taunt minions, and when you have the option to choose the best of 3 out of the fairly decent rush minion pool, you'll likely come away with something you're happy to play. Alongside Playmaker, this is an amazing tool in a rush synergy deck, not to mention the discount this can provide to play a rush minion later if you choose to wait. The only current meta decks that would consider running this are Bomb Warrior and Galakrond Warrior, as they both run Bloodboil Brute and Kargath Bladefist, but they wouldn't cut one of these just to run Athletic Studies, and it's unlikely they would cut another of their popular cards to slot this in right now, so Athletic Studies wouldn't be meta now. However, alongside Playmaker, there's a lot of merit for a card like this to see play in a future meta deck. With the discount and synergies available, I'm fairly confident we'll see Athletic Studies in at least one meta deck very soon. This will fit exceptionally well in our How Many Kargath Primes Can We Summon meme deck as one more possible generator for Kargath Bladefist, or a discount to drop the original copy a turn early alongside a Playmaker or Faceless Manipulator. This is definitely a meme deck enabler. Now, if you want to control the board without having to rush minions into it, Warriors are getting a nice tool to help with that as well. Reaper's Scythe is a 4-mana 4/2 weapon with a spell burst to also damage adjacent minions the turn it's triggered. So this is a true Silver Champion stat weapon with a Warrior Death Knight effect on one of the swings, as long as you have a spell to pair with it. Upgrade is an interesting way to trigger this spell burst while improving the board clear potential and earn an extra swing at the opponent later. This doesn't match the value generation that Livewire Lance provides, the inevitability of later damage Wrench Caliber threatens, or the draw benefit that Ankar gives, but it does have a higher attack and board clear potential than the other weapons run in Warrior right now. As a way to clear the board efficiently on one turn and push a bit more face damage on another turn, I could see Pirate Warrior swapping in Reaper's Scythe for one of their popular cards. With the extra damage available from Dr. Krasnov, the possibility of a better minion with Steel Dancer, and the synergy with the next card we'll cover, I think there's a good chance this will be able to find a home in the new meta as well. And what meme deck would love to have this card join it? Hack the System Quest Warrior. Not only is the weapon synergy in this set excellent, but Reaper's Scythe can help trim down the board in preparation for taking over the board with the quest reward. Using all these new tools, we should finally have a nice win rate with the Warrior quest. So what's an amazing payoff to using a weapon with a bit more attack than normal? Cutting Class is a dual class spell for warriors and rogues to draw 2 cards for 5 mana. But if you have a weapon equipped, this costs 1 less per attack of your weapon. So if you've got a Reaper's Scythe equipped, you'll draw 2 cards for 1 mana. That seems good. Honestly, with how powerful Arcane Intellect is, anytime we can get this to 3 mana or less, it'll feel great. None of the current rogue meta decks run weapon buffs, so the only way they will be able to get below 4 mana will be after playing a fully invoked Galakrond, at which point this would be a 0 mana draw 2 cards. But with Galakrond, they would have just drawn 4 cards to get the weapon, so this probably wouldn't see play in Rogue at the moment. But Bomb Warrior and Pirate Warrior both tend to have higher attack weapons that can cheat this out for 2 or 3 mana, and both decks are happy to have extra cheap Cycle to ensure that they can keep the threats coming. Cutting Class would make the cut in one of these decks right now. And cheap card draw alongside new weapon synergies, on top of the already existing prevalence of weapons in warriors, means this will definitely be a meta card in the future as well. Alongside some of the tools pushing Rogue towards a more weapon-oriented, aggressive style of play, there's a high chance this will make the cut in Rogue meta decks as well. Now, what better way is there to cycle through our ever-growing Togwaggle Scheme Dr. Krastenov Quest Reward Immune Weapon meme deck than drawing 2 cards for free? Even if we just use this alongside the Quest Reward weapon before any buffs from our 20 Dr. Krastenovs, it'll be a 2 mana draw 2 cards spell. This is definitely going in that deck, and it will find a home in a number of other meme decks too. The last warrior card to be covered is another dual class card with rogues, Coerce. Coerce is a 3 mana spell to destroy a damaged minion. If this is comboed out, it will destroy a minion even if it's not damaged. So this is Execute from Warrior for 1 mana more, or Assassinate from Rogue for 2 mana less, but requiring a combo to activate. Execute doesn't make the cut in any current warrior decks, and while dropping a cheap Assassinate on a big threat would be nice, the decks that would consider it already run Shield Slam. Rogues can get the combo value from this much more easily than warrior, but even the cheaper Sap only makes the cut as a popular card in one of the rogue decks, so I don't think this would fit very well into current rogues either. In the upcoming meta, unless a slower, almost control style of rogue emerges, I don't know that Coerce will see play in the stealth class. However, big minion and control warrior may be returning, and this is a serious consideration for that style of play. However, those decks are more likely to have difficulty comboing this out cheaply, meaning there's a good chance they would use it more as an extra execute than getting the assassinate value from it. There are cheaper and better clears available to warrior in that case, so it's hard to see them slotting this instead or in addition to those. It's a cool card, and the flexibility is really appealing, but I don't think it does either minion destruction efficiently enough to see play in a meta deck. And although we could get extra copies of this with Educated Elic to control a little more with it, there's not really anything inspiring or exciting to build around with this. So Coerce doesn't earn meme deck status either. Since there weren't too many warrior cards left, let's look at 5 of the neutral cards we haven't covered yet, including 2 of the legendaries. Plagued Protodrake isn't a legendary, but it's a big 8 mana 8/8 dragon with a death rattle to summon a random 7 cost minion. This is like a mini Rattlegore. Since it doesn't have taunt, it feels a bit challenging to slot into a deck. The dragon tag is nice, but there are plenty of other dragons around this cost that have a more immediate impact. So outside of cheating this out with commencement in Dual Paladin or Big Minion Warrior, I don't know that this dragon will get a chance to see play. There's a lot of value bundled into this with the 7-cost minion on the backside, and it'll feel great to get a Priestess of Fury, Winged Guardian, Archmage Antonidas, or Kael'thas from this. But it'll feel pretty disappointing to get a Dino Tamer Brand, Dragoncaster, or Valdris Felgorge without their battle cries. The average result isn't bad, but I'm afraid it's just too slow. This doesn't fit well into any of the current meta decks, and even if Dual Paladin or Big Minion Warrior do succeed in climbing into the future meta, they'll have far more potent threats to drop than Plagued Proto-Drake, so this won't make the cut there either. However, I would like to give this guy a chance to prove how much value he can spew onto the board, so we'll try building a Dual Paladin with Commencement and this at some point. There are 43 possible 7-drops at the moment, so planning around the results won't be an option, but we'll still give this dragon a moment to shine in our experiments. The next neutral is the 5-mana beast Lake Thresher. This 4/6 minion also damages the minions next to whomever it attacks. This has cleave, and the stats aren't too bad for a 5-drop with an upside. There aren't any current meta decks equipped to use this beast effectively, so Lake Thresher wouldn't see play at the moment. However, with the new Guardian Animals card for Hunters and Druids we'll cover in more depth soon, there's a chance Lake Thresher will see play in the upcoming meta. I'm not sure if a Guardian Animals deck will be strong enough to join the new meta, but if it is, this is a great inclusion in that deck. We'll go ahead and say this does have a chance to join the future meta. And one rather interesting meme deck option with this is to play it onto the board in Paladin. If our opponent ignores it for a turn, we'll cast Blessing of Authority on it and drop a Robes of Protection next to it so that we can smash anything our opponent plays with a 12/18 cleave minion. It probably won't work out very often, but there will be other experiments we can run with this as well. When looking through which cards we haven't covered yet, I realized we haven't looked at the most interesting weapon from the set. Sphere of Sapience is the first ever collectible neutral weapon in Hearthstone. This legendary minion available to every class is a 1-mana 0/4 with an effect which reads, at the start of your turn, look at your top card. You can put it at the bottom and lose 1 durability. So if you choose not to put the card on the bottom of your deck, it will retain its durability, meaning you can shuffle 4 cards down there before this breaks, even if it takes 10 turns. This is great in a combo deck looking for specific cards in their deck, as it will improve your chances of getting what you're looking for a little bit faster. In most cases, using more card draw will help you assemble your combo faster than using this, but you could pair this with a heavy draw deck to really race towards your combo pieces. It also has a benefit over card draw cards that you can keep a fairly full hand and still use this to speed up your chances of getting the last card or 2 you need. Now, Mindrender Elusia for priests and Glide for demon hunters will destroy attempts to build convoluted combos with this. And Bomb Warriors shuffling bombs into your deck will disrupt the order of your deck, meaning earlier uses of putting the card to the bottom of your deck will still get shuffled around. But it's still a cool card. That being said, I don't see any current meta decks using this. While Quest Warlock would like to ensure they draw their Malygos at the right time so that they can discount it with their quest reward hero power, I don't think the number of times this would actually work out to help the timing would be sufficient to merit running it over another card. Sadly, Sphere of Sapience would not be a meta now card. And I have a strong impression that this will run into the same type of merit-demerit pitfall in future meta decks as well. It may see some play early in the meta, but it will most likely get cut as decks get more refined. However, this weapon is absolutely amazing for setting up ridiculous 10-card OTK combos, or even 12-card combos in Warlock with Valdris's help. I haven't put anything together yet, but either we or someone else will figure out a really cool, overly complicated combo to pull off that would have been twice as hard without a little bit of help from this weapon. So yes, Sphere of Sapience is definitely a full-fledged meme deck card. This next minion has almost the opposite effect of our last card. All cards are welcome before Voracious Reader. She's a 2 mana 1/3 with the effect to draw cards until you have 3 cards at the end of your turn. So any deck that has a low mana curve and faces card draw challenges is ecstatic to see Voracious Reader. The closest comparison to this hyperactive gnome we've seen in the game until now is Jeeves, a 4 mana 1/4 that drew cards for both players until they had 3 cards. That card was 1 mana more and could help out your opponent while giving you the same benefit as this, and it has seen a lot of play in aggressive decks. Voracious Reader is almost strictly better, so you better believe it's going to see play. It's actually good enough that I could see it slotting into Murloc Paladin, Face Hunter, and maybe even Pirate Warrior as they are right now. Zoo Warlock already has impressive card draw, but we may see a lower curve version appear in the new meta thanks to Voracious Reader. And it's possible that other classes that don't typically play in a small aggro style will join the fray with her. Who knows, we might see a small spell, small minion mage running the new spell damage package with her. We'll see, but she's definitely a meta later card as well. And when we really want to drop Chef Nomi as soon as possible, we can drop her on turn 6 alongside a couple loot hoarders in a super cheap deck to ensure we cycle through our deck like mad. Of course, it doesn't have to be a Chef Nomi deck. We could just play a bunch of low-cost cards, except 3 or 4 we really want to get together for a massive burst damage combo, and use her to cycle through the filler. There are a number of options she opens for meme decks, so we've got lots to explore. Now for the last card in today's review, we have a rather intriguing neutral legendary. Keymaster Alabaster is a 7 mana 6/8 with an effect that reads, whenever your opponent draws a card, add a copy to your hand that costs 1. When I first looked at this, I was like, well, since Cold Light Oracle is exclusive to Wild and we don't have cards like Naturalize either, there isn't a way to force our opponent to draw cards, so a lot of time you'll only get a top deck card from your opponent before they kill him. And yes, that was mostly right. However, I realized that Demon Hunters did get a new card that could allow them to get a bit more value out of this. Glide. Fortunately, Keymaster costs 7 mana and Glide costs 4 mana, so most Demon Hunters won't try combining the two cards, as counting on Skull of Gul'dan discounts on one of these or saving the coin will be far too inconsistent to rely on, even if that will get them 5 cards from their opponent's deck that will only cost 1 mana each. So if we rule out the above combo as being a bit too complicated and unreliable to survive in the meta, this really is just a big body that will demand removal from the opponent, giving just a little bit of inconsistent value to the player who runs it. The current meta deck with the most to gain from including Keymaster Alabaster would be Res Priest, as they have ways to bring him back and get extra value from him. Right now, Sandhoof Waterbearer is listed as a popular card, so there's a small chance they would consider swapping Keymaster in for Waterbearer. They do run Galakron for late game value generation, which means they may not be too concerned with the randomness of cards from the opponent later in the game. Okay, Keymaster Alabaster might make the cut in current Res Priest. And while it may only be Priest that figures out how to get real value from him, Priest already has been performing better than Rogues as a successful Thief class, and this might be just what's needed to merge the two archetypes in a disturbing way. Another class might pick him up as well, but now I'm thinking Keymaster Alabaster will make the cut in future Priest meta decks. As for memes, all that wackiness we mentioned earlier about combining Skull of Gul'dan with Keymaster Alabaster and Glide in hopes that one of them gets discounted, allowing the Demon Hunter to get 5 one-cost copies of cards from their opponent while shuffling their hand away? Yeah, we're gonna try that and see if we can make it work. I apologize in advance to any of our opponents, but sometimes we will not be the only ones to sacrifice for the sake of memes. Do know that their sacrifice will be greatly appreciated though. And now for the quick reviews. Lord Baroff is a lord of current and future meta decks, and his death rattle will enable some smashing memes. Current meta decks aren't prepared for commencement, but Big Warrior is ready to graduate into the meta, and Rattlegore is excited for the meme afterparty. Both Warriors and Paladins will take up the Shield of Honor in the current and future metas, and this will enable both charging and champion memes. No meta decks are eager to get in formation, but Armageddillo is ready to drop this into the fray for testing meme decks. Current meta decks are not in shape for athletic studies, but Warriors are eager to study this subject in the upcoming meta, and Kargath's meme decks are just getting warmed up. Reaper's Scythe will cleave through Pirate Warrior's opponents in the current meta, will reap many rewards from the new synergies in the upcoming meta, and will hack away barriers to Quest Warrior memes. Surprisingly, Warriors are more likely than Rogues to be caught cutting class in the current meta, but both will figure out ways to skip out in the future meta, and our Togwaggle Scheme Dr. Krastanoff Quest meme deck may be the biggest class cutter. While Coerce is a flexible card, its coercion tactics are just inefficient enough that no meta decks feel the need to listen to it, and it can't even coerce meme decks into using it. Plagued Protodrake is likely to be avoided like the Plague in meta decks, but a dual Paladin meme deck will give him a chance to make it through commencement. Lake Thresher would just lurk in the lake during the current meta, but it might become a guardian animal in the new meta, and memeing Paladins will be happy to give this beast a blessing of authority and some robes of protection to wreak havoc. Players of current and future meta decks will be sapient enough to realize that Sphere of Sapience is better suited to assembling combo pieces of overly convoluted meme decks rather than trying to force it into meta decks. Low-cost aggro meta decks will flock to Voracious Reader, begging her to skim through their decks, and Chef Nomi meme decks will be eager to make use of her appetite as well. Surprisingly enough, Keymaster Alabaster unlocks doors for Res Priest in the current and future metas, and he will glide into meme decks with help from the Skull of Gul'dan. And that's a wrap. We've got more reviews coming, and we'll be doing lots of experiments once the expansion hits, so drop a like if you enjoyed, and smash that subscribe button so you'll know when the next video comes out. You're awesome. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.
Hail to thee, O Scholomance, the magic school.